Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our new lesson this week, our sixth lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about the rising action of narrative stories. So, first, we're going to look at what is rising action. Then, we're going to talk about what happens in the middle of a story. And then, we're going to look at an example. So today's section is where your character tries to solve a problem, but things don't go smoothly. Things don't go well. So you've already set the scene. You've already written the beginning. You've already introduced your setting. You've already introduced your character. Now is where the story starts to get interesting. So what is rising action? Well, a rising action is a series of events that, number one, make the problem bigger or harder. Number two, show what the character does to fix things. And number three, adds tension and keeps the reader interested. This is the part of the story that really encapsulates the reader's attention. It really captures what they want to see. This is the part that is interesting because it deviates from the baseline that we've been talking about so much. It makes the story interesting. This is really, really important to emphasize, and so I'm going to say it a lot of times, but your story is not interesting without a rising action. This is what makes the story fun to read. So here is the hill analogy for a rising action. Think of the middle, the rising action, as a climb up the hill. The higher you go, the more the pressure builds, the more the tension builds, the more interesting the story is. And at the top, there's the climax, which we'll talk about next week. So, what happens? Your character might try something and fail. They might meet someone new. They might make a mistake, or they might get closer to solving the problem, but not solving it yet. Could be all of these combined. Could be any combination of these. But we should remember that they should make a mistake. Something should go wrong. A story that is happy the entire time is not going to be interesting for the reader. So we want to make sure that the character is actually making a mistake. So let's look at an example here. Quickly, before we do so, let's review the parts of a narrative. We have the beginning, which we've already talked about a lot, and now we have the middle. Something goes wrong. This is a problem or conflict. So here is our example character. Remember Leo? Well, he's a shy, science-loving student. His conflict is he wants to make a friend, but is afraid to talk to people. So this is our example text for the middle. On Monday, Leo sat in an empty table in the cafeteria. He saw a group of kids from his science class laughing nearby. He thought about saying hello, but his hands started shaking. On Tuesday, he brought his science book to lunch and opened it on purpose, hoping someone might notice. No one did. On Wednesday, he was paired with a boy named Amir for a science lab. Leo felt nervous, but he didn't want to mess up the experiment. So as we can see, there is tension building throughout this story. Throughout this segment, we can see how we have the repetition of on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and we see him struggling with this problem, the building tension. This is interesting, and this is what's going to make the story interesting. Every day adds pressure, and we get closer to the big moment. So, something that you might find helpful, and I would take note of this and write it down because you're going to want to come back to this. But these are transition words for each part of the story. So, you've probably used some of these without even realizing it at the beginning. You have one day or at the start or first, that sets the scene. Then in the middle, we have these transition words, which are like then, after that, on a certain day of the week, meanwhile. So we saw an example of on in the Leo story, where we had on Tuesday, on Monday. But we can also use then. So let's say we've set the scene with Leo. We can say, then Leo wanted to try to talk to someone, and it didn't work. Something like that. These transition words in the middle help us to move the story along once we've set this baseline that is the beginning. So thank you all for listening. Your homework assignment is already on Google Classroom. It is called Rising Action. Please, please, please make sure that you get your assignment in on time. Please try and get it in by Friday at midnight in Eastern Standard Time. This is really important for us so we can get you feedback and so that you can get the full benefits of this class. Thank you so much, and I hope to see your work.